as it winds down, have you had a good time so far? You all look tired, but it's an exhilarated tired, which is a good thing. It's been an absolutely awesome weekend for us. My name is Teddy. I host a show called Inner Space on the Space Channel, and it's been an amazing weekend for us. But my favorite part of coming to Fan Expo, other than meeting all of you, is getting to do this, is moderating panels, these Q's and A's, because first and foremost, I'm a fan, just like you, and so getting to do this is a real highlight. And of all the highlights, this would definitely be near the top of those highlights, because I'm about to bring out your guest, who, of course, you know, it's tough to find somebody who's as influential or pivotal in the world of current sci-fi. She's had so many amazing roles, of course, amongst them Samantha Carter from Stargate SG-1 and SGA, and of course Helen Magnus from a little show called Sanctuary. This is in addition to being an amazing director, writer, producer, and creator. Please welcome the amazing Amanda Tapping. Can we do that again for the people who didn't see? So Amanda Tapping walked out, and this happened.
SG-16, 10, right! Raise your hand up! Thank you, sir!
Now, is that awkward when you wake up in the morning and they're at the end of your bed? Doing that?
Yeah, but it gets me out of bed in the morning, that's for sure.
So awesome that you're here. How's your expo been so far? Awesome.
This has been so great. You guys, what an amazing crowd, and everyone's been so friendly and so gracious, and I even got to hug a couple of babies, so that rocks. And, yeah, what an amazing group of people. I'm so glad to finally come back to my hometown.
Happy to have you back. We're going to open up the floor to audience questions. I see, not surprisingly, there's already a big lineup. So the way we're going to do it, just so you know, is we're going to have you line up there on the left, but so you don't obscure people's view here, we're going to just take you at the mic right here. So if you get in position. But I want to ask you first, this is like a question that I think like David Frost would ask if he was interviewing you. This kind of a Frost Nixon. Wilson Tapping. Of course, you're known for a lot of great roles, but Sam Carter and Helen Magnus are at dinner together. What do they talk about? I want to know how the dinner discussion between Sam Carter and Helen Magnus would go.
They talk about a boy named Jack. I have a Jack. Oh, really? I have a Jack, too.
Would they get along?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they definitely get along. Yeah, it might come down to an arm wrestle by the end of the evening, but they get along.
Who wins in the arm wrestle?
Yes, what you said.
Now, I told you I was going to do this. I'm going to pour you a cup of water, and I was a terrible bartender. I have my smart serve, so I'm authorized to do this.
He's authorized to pour me water and monitor my intake.
I'm going to monitor your intake. Yeah. All right, so let's open it to the floor. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to say that if I ever have a daughter, I want to be certain that she sees your work so that she'll have a strong female role model in the media.
Thank you.
Now, next, my question. Christopher Judge, Joe Flanagan, Jason Momoa, Robin Dunn, you've worked with quite a few pranksters, and Joe was actually just lamenting the other day of how difficult it is to ruffle your feathers and how he was never able to do it. And
that's so not true.
Then that's what I want to hear about.
He called you unflappable, I believe.
That is so funny because I am the first person to break. So on SG-1, it was like, it would start and, you know, they'd have to yell cut before we got 2 lines into a scene because I'd be the one laughing and I'd laugh so hard that I'd cry. And then Robin can just look at me sideways and it's like, forget it. Cut, just cut. And 9 times out of 10, it's during his coverage. So, yeah, so that Joe said I'm unflappable is pretty intense, man, because that is so not true. Yeah, he's unflappable. No, he giggles a little bit. He does. He does this sort of...
It's a really like handsome giggle when he does it, though,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah. His hair stays in place.
Oh, it doesn't move, ever.
The hedgehog.
You guys could wake him up in the morning and his hair would look exactly the same.
So as a director, when you're working with actors who are flappable, who break up on set, I mean, I'm sure you've acted with a lot of them. So how do you come down on them for doing that when they've seen you on set and they know how flappable you are?
It's hard. When I was directing Veritas, I was in the show, and I lost it on set one day with this terrible case of the giggles. And it was Robin's coverage, of course. And I'm off camera, and all I have to do is hug him, and you see my back on camera. And I couldn't stop giggling. And so I fired myself, as you did. Yeah. I made myself write a letter of apology to myself.
Awesome. Next up at the microphone, hello.
Hi. Hi. First of all, I apologize for hugging before asking. Secondly, and this is kind of a two-pronged question, and I apologize if it's making things serious ahead of time, but you're one of the first women to produce a show in Canada and to do one independently, which was then taken on by the Sci-Fi Channel. And there's a lot of ageism in Hollywood and in casting in general, and I'm wondering how you felt when the show was taken over by Sci-Fi, how that influenced writing and your producing, and whether or not you felt kind of the gendered effects of the system working.
Well, what's interesting is that's a great question. We were an acquisition for Sci-Fi, so although they did have some influence on aspects of the show in terms of giving notes on the script and on edits, they didn't take it over in the sense that it was their show. They actually provided a very small percentage of our budget, like 10% of our budget came from Sci-Fi. What was interesting was trying to mitigate really the Canadian network and the US network and the producers, and we generally had a pretty seamless connection, but occasionally the Canadians would ask for one thing, the US would ask for something else, and then we'd be stuck in the middle. The only time that it became a real issue for me with Sci-Fi was when they changed our logo from what we had from the webisodes with the filigree, and which I thought was just a beautiful logo, and kind of we branded it, and it was very sanctuary, to this kind of steel lettering that they ended up doing. And they did it in spite of us saying, no, we don't want you to change the logo, and then they did. And it's the only time, okay, no, that's a lie. It's one of the few times that I really kind of lost it as a producer. And I called the head of the network for our show and freaked out. And I guess when your lead actress and executive producer calls, it's kind of serious. I didn't think of it that way. I was just like so upset. But of course I hung up. I was like, you can't do that. You can't change it. We have branded this. We are proud of this show, and you don't even give us enough money to change the brand of our rah, 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 rah. And I'm saying this to like somebody quite influential. And they go, oh, calm down, and this is why we did it, and you've got to and it was an okay conversation, but of course at the end of it I hung up, and Martin and Damien were like, and they said, wow, good for you. And I was like, yeah, it feels really good to... I just yelled.
Did you do a dramatic hang-up and everything?
No, not at all. No, because it's a push button. That's right. Yeah, so there's a misperception that Sci-Fi had taken over the show. They were essential in terms of getting us picked up again for every season, because we needed a US broadcaster in order for our financiers to feel comfortable moving forward. So hence the lack of season 5, but it wasn't their show per se.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I hope you keep creating older female characters on the screen.
Thank you.
Next up. Cool earrings, by the way.
Hello. I'm a huge fan of you, and you are a big inspiration to me, especially with playing Sam Carter and getting to play many different things within Stargate, such as the Tok'ra, a replicator, getting the computer taking over your mind. My question for you
As
is...
you do.
my question for you is, what was the most fun to portray, and what was the most difficult thing to portray in Stargate?
The most fun was the alternate reality Carter and Daniel, those guys. Because it was a little bit of a free-for-all. So I guess that was season 8. And, is that right? Yeah. And we just dorked out. We had so much fun. And then it was kind of no holds barred, and it was Peter DeLuise directing, so he's like, put on these life jackets because they look even stupider. So that was by far the most fun, that version of Carter. Replicarter was hard only because of the physicality was slightly different, and I wanted there to be enough of a difference that it was noticeable without being too robotic with her. So that was just more nuanced, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi.
I'd like to know, between Carter and Magnus, what elements of Amanda did you bring into these characters?
Wow. Very good question. Thank you.
Other than screaming at people on the phone.
Other than yelling, which I've done like twice. Carter was a very well-written character initially in terms of her credentials. But I felt that they wrote a very man writing a woman character is in evidence by certain lines in the pilot. Pretty sure I don't need to remind you what those are, but having to do with reproductive organs. And so it was after the pilot when I knew that my job was secure that I was able to go up and say, you know what, women don't actually talk like this. Never have I used the gender argument in that way, if I've ever even used it. But also, you know, and I said, just write as if you're writing for a man, and I'll bring a certain inherent femininity to it, simply by virtue of my gender, but also hopefully because I'm somewhat feminine. For the gun and army boots. The other thing that happened in before we even shot the pilot, and I've told this story before, but there was one executive from the studio who wanted Carter to wear a very low-cut tank top and a push-up bra. And so I went, I just arrived in Vancouver, we'd had our cast read-through, it was super exciting. I went for my wardrobe fitting, and I had been told I'd be wearing black t-shirts and army fatigues and boots, and I was like, awesome. And then there was this tank top and push-up bra, and I looked at the costume designer and I said, what, the what? And she said, yeah, well, we just, you know, so we can take some pictures for the executives. They just want to see if this is the way they want to go with the character. And I was like, you can't. You can't go this way with it. This is a smart, strong, very capable woman. If you make it about her boobs, you've completely lost. Like, she's military. You can't, come on. And, but it was my first real big gig, and I didn't want to blow it. But I kind of had to, that was really where Amanda Tapping first, like, stood her ground. And I refused to put it on. Again, because I don't like confrontation, so of course I burst into tears. But I said, if they want me to put this on, they have to come downstairs and tell me why. And we can have the argument about who this character really is. And if they're insistent that this is what they want her to be, then they've cast the wrong person. Because I refused to sexualize her to the point of marginalizing her. Anyway, lots of tears, and it turned out it was one person who wasn't even associated directly with production, and Brad Wright and Jonathan Glasner and those guys were awesome. And I guess Christina went and phoned and just said she's not going to do it. And she came back and said, don't worry about it, it's all good, just put on the t-shirt. And I was like, whew. And you know, unless it was sort of a story point, there was very few times that Carter was really kind of sexy, unless it was specific to a story point. But otherwise, the day-to-day Carter that you know and hopefully enjoy is dressed that way, the way like the guys are dressed. So that was one of the major influences, I feel. And I don't know whether it would have continued, whether they had me try on this tank top and would have gone, oh, this is stupid. But anyway. And I just feel like my coming into my own as a woman happened sort of at the same time as Carter's in terms of the evolution. We had really amazing writers on that show, and they really listened to the actors' voices, and they had a very clear idea of what they wanted the characters to be. So I credit them more than I credit myself in terms of how Sam turned out. But it became a very symbiotic relationship between Sam and I. With Helen, I had more of an influence because we were developing her right from the start. But again, I credit the writing, which was Damien Kindler, who wrote this phenomenal female character. And then really, it was just a matter of bringing my own physicality to her. And there was a lot of discussions about how we were going to play her and what we wanted her to be like. And again, I feel like I was ready to play Helen Magnus. I wouldn't have been ready 15 years ago to play Helen Magnus, but I was ready now to play her. So, hope that answers your question.
Great question.
Hey Amanda, I apologize if it takes a couple minutes for me to ask my question. I'm very nervous because you're one of my favorite actresses of all time.
Thank you.
I have two questions. My first one is, in terms of being a producer and director and a female in the industry, what is something you're passionate about that you'd like to see more of? And also, with working on SG-1, I'm sure everybody wants to know this. What's it like working with MacGyver?
I'll start with your second question first. I've said this many times, and I stand by my story. He is amazing. He's a great guy. He's guileless. He could have come in with a huge amount of ego, being MacGyver and being sort of a pop culture reference, and he didn't. He was very humble and really sweet and so easy to work with, and a big kid. I mean, he was probably the goofiest member of SG-1. Well, clearly he was the goofiest member. And he brought something to the character of Jack that evolved over the seasons, but that was pure Rick. So he's absolutely lovely. So the first part of your question, what am I passionate about as a woman in this industry, is getting more women into the industry. I think, yeah. And it's important to me that I mentor when I can young women who are coming forward, and I work with women in film, and I have a lot of women come up to me, and I've been able to bring them onto set and show them green screen technology, for example, or let people shadow me while I'm directing, and I just think it's really important that we support and push each other forward.
Thank you so much.
Check. You said that MacGyver is easy to work with. Check. You said that MacGyver is easy to work with. Humble, professional. But what's Richard Dean Anderson like?
He's a dink. MacGyver's great, but Richard Dean Anderson, what a punch. No, I'm kidding. He's amazing. He is MacGyver.
Hi. Please don't kill me, but do you have any tattoos or piercings?
Do I have any tattoos or piercings?
Yeah.
I have my ears pierced. I don't have any tattoos. And I got my belly button pierced a long time ago. And then I got pregnant, and I kept it in for a while, and then I got more pregnant, and then I took it out. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
My name is Mark. I watched all the HD series and movies. What did you like and dislike about acting in so many HD series?
Good job, Mark. Thank you.
Yes.
What do I like? I get to play an amazing character, and I get to work with people that I love. I don't think there was anything I didn't like about shooting Stargate, except that we shot a lot outside in the mountains of North Vancouver in the wintertime, which has its moments of being somewhat unpleasant. But as far as the job goes, it was amazing. And to work on a series for 10 years and to laugh, and not just like, ha, but belly laugh every single day, what an amazing gift. Yeah. Thank you very much, Mark.
If you were going to get a tattoo and it can't be of a Stargate, what would you get a tattoo of?
Richard Dean Anderson.
My name. No, MacGyver. I dig that mullet.
I think you should get my name on your ass. Hello again. Since you are the Grand Empress of sci-fi,
I disagree with that one.
I was wondering if, the opportunity ever presented itself, would you want to be the 12th Doctor?
out there. Does anyone know anyone who knows someone who can do something for me? Because I want to be the Doctor. But I'm not the only one. Apparently there's a long list of people who would like to be the 12th Doctor. Yeah, I would love it. I think, you know, I know that the Doctor Who purists would say, no, the Doctor has to be a man, but...
I also just wanted to know, I don't know if you've ever watched Warehouse 13, but...
That show?
Would you ever, like, maybe incorporate the Helen Magnus character onto Warehouse 13, since...
What a great idea.
H.G. Wells knows Tesla, and, you know, Helen knows Tesla.
What a great idea. Something about that. That's a really cool idea. I love Warehouse 13. I think it's a great show, and I think Eddie's amazing, so yeah.
Thank you.
Cool, thank you.
What was it, Grand Empress of Sci-Fi?
Grand Empress, yeah. Somebody called me the Queen, and I said I preferred to be called the Grand Empress, and it kind of stuck. You just gotta be so careful what you say. There's this thing called the intro web, I think, that people like put stuff out there. Yeah, this panel's already on YouTube.
And if it's on the internet, it must be true.
Exactly. Hi.
Thank you for being so amazingly kind and gracious this weekend to everybody.
Thank you.
My question is, I think a lot of us would like to know, if Jack and Sam were real, what do you think they'd be doing right now? Not necessarily in a dirty way.
Fishing.
That's
He's fishing in the little lake by the cabin, and I'd be mixing up some martinis or something. Be hanging out on the dock, having a little chit-chat. Watch the sunset. Go back to the cabin, you know, stuff.
Perfect.
Thank you. I'm blushing.
Hey.
It's just got very hot.
And now that's going on YouTube. If we don't document it, how are we going to remember it? Okay, hi, my name's Bree. How are you? Thanks for coming. Oh, I'm shaking, so I had to write down a question. My question, I absolutely adore the character Nikola Tesla. And I love the Nikola and Helen dynamic. What was the motive behind the last kiss, right? At the very last episode, did Helen kiss him because she thought she might die? Or did you put it in there because you feared the wrath of the Teslan shippers if you close the series with no kiss?
Jonathan, so. Jonathan and I actually, it wasn't in the script, and Jonathan and I had talked about towards the end of the season trying to find the little, not so subtle, because neither Helen nor Tesla are subtle, but the not so subtle nuances between them. And that's why there's that line about Vienna, remember, and that wasn't in the script. It was just, you know, he added the remember and we added the look. And I think the kiss at the end for us was kind of dual purpose. It was a bit of a red herring, so the audience would think that Helen would actually die, because she can be killed. She just never has been. So it was a goodbye. It was a very emotional, like, I hate to say, I'm not going to say the word, but stuff's getting real moment, right? And I also think it was when you know, it was just a culmination of this incredible chemistry between the two of them and this friendship. And definitely at one point in time, they were lovers, I think. I don't know if anyone agrees with that, but I think so. And so it was that. It was, you know, you're one of my oldest, dearest, most amazing friends, and I may die, and I may never see you. And so it was just, yeah. It could have been a hug, but I think the kiss was way more powerful.
Oh, for sure.
Jonathan and I didn't mind doing it so much. So.
And
It's for our jobs.
as a suggestion for something that you two could do in the future, I mean, you could do a small web series of, you know, the Nikola and Helen adventures. Exactly. Go back in time,
Yeah.
Egypt, and whatnot.
We actually pitched a mini-series that was a little bit of more of a time travel-y kind of thing that would figure Tesla pretty big in it.
I would watch it.
If
Would
you know
guys
anyone at
watch it?
sci-fi who might be interested.
There's your fan base. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Would you ever, that kind of brings up a question though, given that Sanctuary started as a mini-series on the web, you're directing Primeval New World now, some episodes, but in terms of creating another project, would you ever go back to the web as the incubator for a new project?
Oh yeah, I think it's a great tool, and I think that Sanctuary was like a good 5-6 years ahead of its time in terms of how to monetize something on the web and how to really spread it across the multi-platform, which was our initial goal. But I think we were just a little bit ahead of our time. So I think now it's actually a much more ripe time to do something like that, and I think it's an amazing tool.
Hey, good to see you. Amanda, your body of work, absolutely brilliant. All the seasons of Stargate, Ree's Kingdom Falling, and Sanctuary. The emotional connection that you had with Emily Ellerup at the end of season 1 of Sanctuary, beginning of season 2, that separation scene, I lost someone very dear to me just around that time, and I keep listening to it. It keeps bringing me back. I know there was talk of bringing Emily back again. She had her surgery. What was the creative process that you were sitting around with and talking about as a way to fit her back in?
We actually had a couple of episodes. One in particular that was a little bit of a flashback idea, but with potential to kind of rework the past and have her. But Amelia wasn't available for that episode. And then there was another one, and she was shooting. I don't know if it was Arctic Air or whether it was before Arctic Air, but she was shooting and wasn't able to do it. And I think at that point, Amelia had sort of moved on. So I would love to have brought her back. I didn't want to see her go. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Teddy, Amanda. A lot of the questions I was going to ask sort of came out already in other people's questions. So I just wanted to ask a quick question and see if I could give you a small present. But I really do hope that I can be one of those women that you mentor sometime. I'm in the film business, and it's too exciting for words, and I'm just like all giddy about talking to you and the idea that you've pushed things forward so much, because it's still such a men's world out there, and every time I go into a meeting I have to fight that fight, and it's really frustrating. But in the next few years, do you see yourself doing film? Do you see yourself staying on television, going back to web? What's your preferred medium right now?
I don't know that I have a preferred medium. When Sanctuary finished, I've done, since we wrapped, I guess a year ago, I've done 4 films that I've acted in, and then also directed 3 episodes of sci-fi.
That's awesome.
And I'm about to direct Arctic Air. So maybe I get to work with Amelia again. Any way I can, I'll just... So I don't know. I don't know what my preferred medium is. The films that I've done were small and kind of contained and really fun indie projects. Space Milkshake with Robin.
I saw a trailer
Billy
for
Boyd
that.
and
It's
Kristen
adorable.
Cruick, is coming out. It's goofy as hell, and we had a blast doing it. Random Acts of Romance is a film I'm super proud of that'll be coming out soon. Taken Back, which I think already aired in the States and is coming, which was a trip because it was a character I don't usually get to play. And then I just did a movie called Kid Cannabis. About stuff. It's actually a cool little film. It's a little indie as well, based on a Rolling Stone article about a boy in Idaho who transported BC marijuana across the border and made massive amounts of money. And I, much to my chagrin, played his mother.
Because
But it
you
was
agreed
fun.
with him, or because you were ashamed of what he was doing?
Because I am not old enough to have a teenage son. In my mind, anyway. Curse you, IMDb. But, I don't know. I'm sort of, it's nice. I love television. I love the medium. I love working on series. I love the sense of family. I really do. I mean, I've been very blessed to do Stargate and Sanctuary, where it was a real sense of family and to be connected to that. So I would happily go back to television. I think it's a great medium, and I love this genre, so.
I know you're talking about green screen. Have you used Chromate yet? Have you seen this? Oh, it's amazing. It's like little glass beads on a curtain, and it shoots. You actually have an LED ring around the camera lens that shoots red or blue.
Oh, wow.
So you can light it any way you want.
Cool.
Instead of
Yeah.
totally flat. Can I give you something?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
What Franco, the last right. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Should we read?
Book test, you turn to page 41, and if you like it, then the book is good.
Hi.
Hi.
I can only imagine that what you do is fairly stressful, and I know other actors have said if you want a friend in Hollywood, get a dog. I just wondered, do you have any dogs or cats? And
I do. I have a big dog. He's a Bouvier. He's about 120 pounds, and his name is George. And he's awesome. I also have a husband and a child, which, helps too.
The dogs and cats are easier.
But dogs are great.
And we actually, we do have to wrap a little bit early, I'm told. So we only have time for two more if you're super quick. Yeah, sorry about that. I apologize. Bad cop, yeah. It's still quite early, but yeah. Yeah.
BS.
It's not me.
Hi. But don't go anywhere yet. Hang on. Is she standing right there? Hi. Do you need me to wrap it up? Why don't you come to the back here and you and I can deal with each other real quick, and then I can stay and talk to these people.
I think there may be a flight.
Oh, okay. You gotta go now. Okay. Julie Caitlin Brown, everybody. You might remember her from Babylon 5. No, Julie, where am I meeting you? Okay. Okay, as we were. It's cool.
It's exciting now. Like all the changes.
Yeah, right?
It's like twists in a movie.
Sorry,
What
Julie.
happened?
She's mad, shaking her head. That actress.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm in so much trouble.
I feel like we're a class and we've been bad and the principal left.
Substitute teacher just left the room. Anyway, I'm so sorry.
Hi. Firstly, I just want to say that you're the nicest person I've ever met in my entire life.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
And my question is, you're a huge inspiration to me, and I'm sure many other people. So if you had to give one piece of advice to your fans who are aspiring actors and actresses, what would it be?
Do it.
Good advice.
Sound like a Nike ad. Yeah, I had a lot of detractors saying that I should not pursue acting. My parents were very worried about me, and I did it. I said, no, this is really what I want to do, and I put myself through university, and I did it through a lot of adversity and a lot of great good fortune. So I'm a huge proponent of following what you want to do.
Awesome.
I don't want to say follow your dreams, because that just sounds so lame, but really, follow your dreams! Life is short, man. Life is short. And I know people who have waited until their 40s to do what they really love and have found great success. So, yeah, you got to do it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and good luck.
I want to go back to Space Milkshake for a second, because just looking at that trailer, it looks like you guys had such a great time.
Yeah.
I was wondering what your favorite part of filming was.
Robin had you see at one point that we're all covered in this kind of green slime, like a little Nickelodeon thing. But Robin was never covered in the green slime because he wasn't in the room when the thing that caused us to be covered in green slime happened. Anyway, so he got off scot-free, and the slime was freezing cold, and it was uncomfortable and super slippery, and we just thought that was woefully unfair. So my favorite part of filming was when pretty much most of the crew and the cast each got cups of green slime, and when Robin was finished doing one particular scene, we all just blasted him. I'm working with Billy Boyd and Kristen Kruk. I can't say enough about them. Billy Boyd is one of the funniest human beings I've ever met. I mean, the man could read the phone book and make you laugh. Yeah, and we had such a good time. The four of us went out for dinner every night. We hung out together. We had a really great time. I mean, we'd go to the gym, yoga, and it was just a really gentle, sweet movie to work on in terms of the four cast members got along so well. And at the very end of it, after the wrap party, we were going up in the elevator and we're going to see each other again, and we all had different flights to catch from Regina. And Billy was on the floor below us, and we were sort of all standing in the elevator expecting this kind of tearful, huggy goodbye. And the doors open, and Billy walks out, and he turns in the hallway, and he goes, "It was all shite." Just really, really funny guy. It was great. Thank you.
Hi, I'm going to try not to fall apart defensive. We got a chance to meet Michael and Lexa last year, and being parents ourselves and bringing our children to something like this, we talked about our kids and we talked about family. I asked them the same question: how do you find a balance between doing all that you do and all this public eye and your family? I know they share projects in a way that one of them can try to be home.
Yeah.
Or nearby. Michael was in the doghouse last year because it didn't turn out that way. But how do you do it?
I have an incredible husband. We've been married almost 18 years. And, yeah, right? Got married really young. He's very supportive, and I have sworn that if I ever felt like Olivia was compromised, I wouldn't take a job, or I would stop. And I literally just turned down a television series last week because I didn't think it would be fair on Olivia. So you just choose. You choose the projects that are going to still give you enough time to come home at night and tuck your children into bed and have a normal family life. My weekends are all about family. No work is allowed. And, we shoot 5-6 months of the year, and then we have time off, and then you're just sort of more on regular hours, so it's not so hard. And I chose to take as much time off this summer as I could. So it's been good. And I was very lucky in the early years with Olivia because she came to Stargate with me every day.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because Stargate was such a family environment.
Yeah, and it was long shooting hours and long, it was a long run. So
I was waiting for an episode. You ever see a Pixar movie? They have the Pixar babies. Yeah. I was waiting for that.
For one with all the Stargate babies.
Yeah, with all the Stargate babies.
There was a bulletin board at one point in the office with all the Stargate babies.
Yeah, and so that kind of balance, did you learn that on the Stargate set? Because
I think it's just something
something that developed over time.
Yeah, it's mostly fear. It's a fear-based balance, really. I mean, I think any parent can tell you, it's like you just keep running. And you hope that, you're still holding on to everything by the time you get to the end of the track. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of juggling, but I'm super happy, and my daughter is amazing and super happy, and my husband's great, and so I feel like I'm, and if that changes, then I change what I'm doing or how I'm doing it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
One project that you have said yes to is Finding a New World. You directed a handful of episodes. So was it terrible and torturous to reunite with Martin Wood from Sanctuary to do that?
Just like, it was very funny because I didn't actually get to see Martin very much. He directed the pilot, and he was so busy producing the show, and I prepped and directed and prepped and directed and prepped and directed 3 episodes in a row. And Martin was so busy that I would see him occasionally during my prep. I never saw him when I was shooting. And I shot on location. I shot in a Canadian Tire store. And I shot in a hockey arena. It's so Canadian. It's fantastic. And I shot on location at our studio, which is really far away from the offices. So I really didn't have to see him that much. And I kind of put that in my contract, so it worked out well.
I did a panel with him earlier for Primeval New World, and he did an impression of a dinosaur sound. And he was fabulous at it, and he said that you might be able to do a dinosaur sound. He told me the name, but I forget, because I'm not very bright. Did you take any dinosaur sounds away from shooting Primeval New World?
No. This is my dinosaur sound. It's a dinosaur coming out of an egg.
Awesome. Hey there.
First of all, thank you for extending the time, because that was awesome.
Thank you.
And you were my most amazing role model ever, on and off the screen. So I want to thank you for that. You gave me so much confidence in my life.
Thank you.
My question is, when you're working with Richard Dean Anderson on Stargate, what was your craziest, funniest moment with him that you can think of? Or your favorite, either way.
Pretty much every day. Certainly, my scariest moment was riffing on MacGyver in Solitudes, because I had no idea. I had no idea whether he would like fire me or if he was pretty cool. That's a really tough question. We kissed a lot, which was okay.
It's your fault. You asked me for a good question.
I did, and now you stumped me with it. Damn you. And getting married was actually really funny. The wedding scene, we were both really dorky. It was like, hey. You look nice, so do you. Thanks. This is awkward, yeah. Never thought you'd be in this position. How would you go? Okay, well, let's just not look at each other during the scene, okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My name is Brian Moore, and I was curious, what was it like working with Joe Fleming, Michael Shanks, and Rodney McKay's character on Stargate?
All three of them very different. Michael Shanks is, he's like a brother to me. He's a really dear friend, and we always had a very sibling kind of relationship. And I just adore him. So